What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky Rhett back with you. A little takeaway episode. Boys, what's going on?
No, just another good week. Another good week of football, college, pro. We got all kinds of chaos being created. The New York Jets send the world in a tizzy for a minute. So, I mean, it's just another exciting week. And it's the holidays. It's right before the holidays. So, yeah.
Wait, hold on. Can you guys hear this? You guys hear this? Are you guys hearing this? Everybody at home hearing this?
Everybody seems to really enjoy Rhett typing during the show. It's something we've learned over the last week. It's been handled.
Listening.
It's been handled. Okay. Rhett had to do. We went Joe Judge on him. He had to run a couple laps, and now it's been resolved.
All right,
Buck, why don't you kick us off here? Why Rhett doesn't type?
This is easy. The Chiefs keep it going.
1st and 10 for the Chiefs at the Saint 13. Sprint option action. Mahomes keeps it, pitches it late. Back to Bell at the right sideline. Touchdown! Kansas City. Sprint option. It was Texas Tech pitching to Michigan State, and the Chiefs get the coveted 2-possession lead on a 13-yard sprint option run and pitch by Mahomes. Bell finishes it off.
You know, it's something else watching the Chiefs play each week because they don't necessarily bring their A game every week, but they find a way to get it done. The last 23 games they've been out, they've won 22 of them. They have just found a way to consistently get it done. And I understand that the New Orleans Saints were a little shorthanded. You didn't have Michael Thomas. You lose Cam Jordan in the fourth quarter. You're still trying to figure out how to get Drew Brees back into the mix. But the Kansas City Chiefs go on the road and do what they need to do. And I just think this is a team that is just so tough to deal with because from an offensive standpoint, they can make up for all the mistakes that their defense makes, and they can score in bunches, and they really put you in a bind. That said, the New Orleans Saints may have put a blueprint out on how to defend them because they really limited the explosive plays.
Yeah, and they pressured him. And they hit him. I mean, I haven't seen Patrick Mahomes take hits like that in some time. He took a couple of big ones, even when Cam Jordan went out. You guys' old pal Trey Hendrickson was getting to him a couple of times as well. Look, 92 plays for the Chiefs offense. I mean, that's a hard day's work, and that's a full day's work in there on offense. And look, I think the McCole Hardman TD pass, that floater, just shows you that even when you do everything right, like the Saints did on that play, and you got everyone pretty much covered, Mahomes can still beat you. And he does. And he did on that play, which I thought was just a throwaway like everyone else on the broadcast too. He is better than your best defense is essentially the conclusion. And the other thing is for the Saints, I mean, Drew Brees, you know, he might get right here these next 2 weeks, but that wasn't it, right? That's his first sub 50% completion game in like 5 years. And with no Michael Thomas down the stretch here, you wonder if they're going to have enough to kind of figure things out here to be ready to play week one in the postseason. And then even if they do win their first postseason game, how much confidence do you have in Drew Brees going up to Lambeau to play the Packers?
No, I mean they've got to be playing in the dome there to have a lot of confidence. But I would say this is Brees started out terrible, right? Was terrible. He got
figured it out
as the game went on. He knocked some of that rust off. So I guess it's better to have him come back in the regular season, knock that rust off before you get to the postseason. But I don't see this team winning outdoors in Green Bay. I just don't see that happening. With the way they're constructed with Drew out there. They're going to have to sprinkle in more at Taysom Hill if they're going to do that. One more thing on the KC deal. I went back and watched. We hear so much about Kelsey and Tyreek. So when you go back and watch it, they saw so much man in this game. So you saw every combination of rub route imaginable. And then they do it Watkins, Robinson, and Hardman. So they've got three guys that can really, really run. And so you get a rub route, which gives you just a little bit of separation, Buck. All of a sudden, those 5-yard, 10-yard throws turn into 20, 25-yard gains.
You know, that's the thing, because everyone thinks the only way you can use speed is in the vertical aspect, but horizontally, speed is an advantage. And it's funny because Kansas City basically did what New Orleans does to most people, run everybody through the picket fence and see if you can kind of navigate your way around it. And if you can't, it does lead to explosive games. This Kansas City Chiefs team is just so versatile and dynamic. And you get Lev Bell coming back in the mix. because he has to step in for the rookie injury. And you can see he can be a factor down the stretch. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys play down the stretch.
No doubt. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get to takeaway number 2, the death of a dynasty.
Quarterback sneak touchdown.
There you go. There's the touchdown finally.
And that'll give the Dolphins that 21-12 lead we thought they had before with 3:13 left to play.
Yeah, so no postseason this year for the Patriots after their incredible run of success with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That all goes away. The Miami Dolphins take care of the Patriots in this one where, yeah, we'll get to the Dolphins side. You guys hit that if you want. Tua I thought was very efficient throwing to a bunch of guys that aren't going to be a part of his team going forward. Side note on that, there's nobody that started at the skill positions for Tua in that game that would have started for his last team in Alabama. Zero. Not a single one. Not even a joke, right? I mean, like, none of those receivers he played with would play over anybody at Alabama. The running backs wouldn't play. Nobody. And tight end Gesicki wasn't out there, so the tight ends wouldn't have played. But anyways, they'll get more pieces around him as they get healthier and add next year. But about New England, I want to throw this one thought out to you, Buck. What about the combination of Carson Wentz to New England? How about that one?
Interesting. Very interesting because
what do you think?
One is a young reclamation project to take on. Josh McDaniels has done really well in terms of getting quarterbacks ready to play. When you look at the number in terms of what the number will be, that number won't be exorbitant when it comes to the way these next quarterback contracts are coming in. So you have someone who has played, who has done it. We've seen him at his highest level, and that's what Bill Belichick would grade him on. Yeah, and I think people who are worried about the injury thing, he just took a flat on Cam Newton coming off an injury. So I don't think that necessarily scares him. It's all about bang for the buck for the Patriots, and they need to do it. Now, that said, if they take him, they need to make sure they upgrade the wide receivers because I think that is
same thing he dealt with in Philly.
He'll be dealing with the same thing that he dealt with in Philadelphia. And so they have to make a concerted effort to find some pass catchers that can make plays consistently. That is a huge problem. And they also got to take the hammer to the rest of the roster because we have seen this is an older team that never had enough replacements that they acquired in the draft the last few years, and it all bore its ugly head this year.
So I will double down on that because, DJ, we talked about it this morning when I was driving in to do the aftermath here this morning about, the Patriots have to overhaul the wide receiver core all the way through. And so they're going to have to overpay. I mean, they need a couple of free agents. They're going to have to draft a couple of guys as well. But they're going to have to overpay, as you do most of the time in free agency, right? So I'm looking at the top flight guys out there next year are going to be Kenny Golladay if he doesn't get franchised in Detroit, Chris Godwin if he doesn't get franchised in Tampa, Allen Robinson, Will Fuller, and Juju Smith-Schuster are all going to be up. Like, do they have to make a run for one of those guys, one of those top flight guys? Or do you see them probably looking in the DeMarcus Robinson with the Chiefs, Kendrick Bourne with the 49ers, Chris Conley of the Jaguars? That's more their style, right? But even with those guys, I bet you're still going to have to go the 6-7 mil per year kind of route there. That's just what it costs on the open market. Are they going to give Joe Thuney 15 mil per year to be an elite guard?
They got a center, David Andrews, up too.
I don't know that if you're rebuilding essentially an offense, I don't think you can afford to pay $15 million to a guard. I don't know. But he's arguably their best player on offense.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They can go in a lot of different places. I'm just thinking of the Jets in my mind. All these receivers and offensive linemen. I'm like, there's going to be a line here when you think of some of these other teams that have needs at those two positions.
Hey,
go ahead.
Real quick on the Dolphins, if I just to say for the playoff team in this conversation, their defense is for real. And I think that's going to give them an opportunity in the postseason. I know they're not in there yet, but if they're going to control their own destiny, they went out, they're going to be in. And I think their defense is going to give them a shot to win a game.
Yeah, just physical, man. That's the way that they play. And Xavier Howard definitely in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year with the year that he's having. All right, keep us rolling here, Rhett. What we got?
All right, here we go with the intro of the day. Tampa bucks up in the second half.
Wow.
We're at the Falcon 46, moving right, first down 10. Brady, a 7-step drop, looks downfield, wants all of it, throws toward the end. Got a receiver open. It's Antonio Brown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Buccaneers take the lead for the first time of the game, and Brown has his first touchdown as a Buccaneer.
That was such a huge play in that game. His first touchdown is the touchdown that gives them the lead for the first time. But stop me if you've heard this before, right? I mean, let's not bury the lead. A Tom Brady team down 17 points at the half to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, come on. Not again.
Yes.
Not again. So, yes, this is Tom Brady's fourth career win, including the playoffs, after trailing by 17 or more points at the half. The most such wins by any quarterback in that kind of situation in the Super Bowl era, and the most recent one since, of course, Super Bowl 51, where he trailed 21 at the half, came back to win 34-28. Another thing I learned in our aftermath meeting is that the Falcons, since that Super Bowl 51 game, are now exactly 28-34. The score of that game, and then that's look, Brady was terrific in the second half, and I think that they're going to clinch a playoff berth here with a win in Week 16 against the Lions. But I'd like to give a ton of credit, as I know you will, DJ, to what the Tampa Bay defense did, particularly from the second level in this game, with Devin White having another monster performance with over 10 tackles and 3 sacks.
Yeah, 3 sacks for him, and Buck on one of them. He's just checking the back. So when Todd Gurley stays in, it was a fascinating play because Gurley's going to chip and then release. So if the quarterback has time to wait for Gurley, because Devin White's coming, there's nobody there for him. But it's just Devin White just saying, I can get to Matt Ryan before he can chip and get out. And it's just like a beeline. And he was right. It was a good gamble. He got him. But he is a really, really good player. I've got concerns in the back end for that group because I've seen the ball sail over their heads, which would lead me to my kind of takeaway from this game, Buck, is that we ought to do something on great players, bad teams, because Calvin Ridley is a great player, man. Mm-hmm. The team stinks, but he is phenomenal.
He's an outstanding route runner. One of the best route runners in the league. And we have seen those guys have a tendency to get open over and over and over again. I think if you're the Atlanta Falcons, I know you're Raheem Morris and you hate to lose, but I think this puts you where you need to be when it comes to draft position. You're sitting at the number 5 pick. You have Calvin Ridley emerging as a young superstar. You have an older receiver in Julio Jones that maybe you can auction off. We talk about this rebuild. And DJ, we've talked about it. Rhett, you've been on the show. We've talked about it. The thing that Atlanta can do is it can seduce you into thinking that it's a retool rather than a rebuild. And I think this year proves you need to completely rebuild it and bring it back. And you have an opportunity to do it with a new school quarterback leading the way, even though Matt Ryan played outstanding against the Bucs.
Yeah, but the previous 6, he'd been not so great.
He'd been bad.
But this week was much better for sure.
Okay, here we go. Sam Darnold makes his case.
That's Johnson, who flips from the right to the left of Darnold at the snap. On third down, he's got another catch at the 20. He's got the 10. First down at the 5. He gets the pylon for a touchdown. Able to run through Jordan Fuller and convert the 19-yard touchdown. Ty Johnson doing damage on the Jets' opening drive. They've got a 6-0 lead with 6:25 to go first quarter.
Hey, Sam Darnold is not immune to hearing the conversation and what everyone has been saying in New York, the jerseys that have already been printed up with a prospect from maybe Clemson coming over. Well, Sam Darnold had an opportunity to do something about it. And so in his homecoming, he decided that, no. I'm the QB1 for the New York Jets, and it's not changing. I thought this was one of the better performances that we've seen from the Jets. This is a team that had deserved to win. They should have beat the Patriots a few weeks ago. They should have knocked off the Raiders, if not for an ill-fated defense of the Hail Mary. And then they got it against the Rams. One underreported factor in this, Frank Bush, their interim defensive coordinator, was with the Rams during Jared Goff's rookie season. And so someone knowing the warts on that quarterback, I don't think it was a coincidence that they dialed it up and they heated him up. He wilted under the pressure, didn't play well. I think the Jets deserve to win it. As much as Jets fans and everybody wanted to see the number 1 pick, too much pride involved when you get into these contests. They won the game. They beat them up for 60 minutes and deserve to win.
To me, I have a hard time with this. I know a lot of Jet fans are upset about this and losing a chance at Trevor Lawrence. And there's an aspect of that we'll hit on tomorrow's podcast, Buck. I know we want to talk about this because I did some homework. If you look at the last 11 drafts and you look at who the first quarterback was picked and you look at who went on to be the best quarterback from that draft, the numbers will surprise you a little bit on that one. So we'll get to that tomorrow. So that's a tease for tomorrow. But the other side of this is there's something kind of psychological about this. While the Jets have a lot of picks and they have a lot of money, they're going to bring in a lot of new players and try and retool this team. They still have a nucleus of some guys. And do you really want that culture to be anything other than trying to win every time you put your cleats on the grass? Like, I don't think you can be a winning culture if that seeps into your mind. I just don't. I'm not wired that way. And I think that sometimes we get caught up in the media and people comparing the NFL to other sports. This is not the NBA. This is not LeBron James coming to be the savior and to lead your team to the finals every year for a decade plus. Like, that's not how this works in the NFL. There's a lot more to it than that. And if you're the Jets, if you're able to get Trevor Lawrence with the first pick, you're still going to have to hit on a lot of other players in order to be a championship team. And if you don't get Trevor Lawrence, if you think Sam's the right guy, you build around him. If you think there's another quarterback in this draft class, you build around him. You still got to build a dang team. And so the sky is falling. They're never going to recover because they're not going to have Trevor Lawrence potentially. I don't buy that.
No, I don't buy it either, DJ. I mean, I think this is what you want to do. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to get out there and win each week, and they deserved it. And
nobody wants 0-16. Yeah. I mean, Rhett, you can speak to that. Who with the Lions, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
That's the first line, and what I was when I was kind of just looking at all of our takeaways here that popped into my mind is I was like, all right, look, good for Sam Darnold, good for Adam Gase, maybe not as good for Joe Douglas, but good for the Jets. Because in my 2008 Lions fandom, I sat around waiting for that win number 1, and it never came. I'm still waiting for it, and it sucks to lose, and to lose week in and week out when you are as invested as every single person in that Jets organization is in winning, and to come out and lose for 13 straight weeks, it wears on you. And I'm happy for them to get that win. I don't know. Look, the whole number 1 pick thing, we'll talk about that for the next few weeks here. But the interesting thing is they'd become the first 1-in-15 team to not get the number 1 pick since your Carolina Panthers, Bucky. And they only missed out because the Texans came into the league as an expansion team and got the number 1. So it's a kind of a rub both ways. I see it, but I don't know. It'll make for an interesting draft conversation. That's for sure.
Yep. It makes the draft spice up a little bit here for us because Jacksonville, we knew, was taking a quarterback. They weren't going to be committed to Gardner Minshew. With Sam Darnold, it becomes a little more complex, which is going to be good for us in the spring, selfishly speaking. All right, I'll keep it moving here. Phillip peaking at the perfect time.
Looking Pascal in motion from right to left. Rivers sets up, throws left side to Zach Pascal at the 5-yard line, looking for the pylon, and he's in! Zach Pascal with his second receiving score today, and it gives the Colts the lead, 26-20, touchdown, I-N-D-Y, Zach Pascal!
Yeah, Zach Pascal's been good, man. I'm gonna do a little breakdown on him on the aftermath today. He's been impressive, and on the same page as his quarterback in Phillip Rivers, who, Buck, if you haven't noticed, is he's not turning the football over. You look at the last 5-6 weeks, he's done a really good job playing clean football. Really, the only loss has been against the Colts team when they didn't have DeForest Buckner, they didn't have Jonathan Taylor, they were down a bunch of guys to the Titans, I should say. That Titans game is the only game they've lost. So this is a team that's really humming along, and I think Phillip Rivers is showing when he's protected. It might not always look beautiful coming out of his hand, but he gets it where it needs to be, and they're playing winning football.
They are playing winning football, DJ. And I believe the Kansas City Chiefs are the clear number 1 team in the AFC and even in the league. But if I could say the one team that they don't want to face, I would say it would be the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts knocked them off in 2019. They play a style that works against what the Kansas City Chiefs want to do. And Phillip Rivers is the ultimate wild card because in a one-game scenario, if he gets hot, he can certainly light up the scoreboard. And so this team is rounding into form. And as long as Frank Reich avoids the temptation of getting cute and trying to do too much with the quarterback, I think this team is built the right way because they are a fast team and they're very, very physical, and they have a dominant set of trenches, O-line, D-line that gives them a chance.
I think you guys have nailed it here on this. Rivers has played really well, and they've really rediscovered T.Y. Hilton in this offense the last 3 weeks. Now, in addition to Zach Pascal and the way Jonathan Taylor's running the football, their offense is clicking on all cylinders, that's for sure. So Phillip Rivers has 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions since week 6. What if he continues on this hot streak? They have a deep run in the playoffs, and he says he wants to come back next year.
I think they'd take him back. I think they would take him back for a year.
Even if Carson Wentz was available?
Well, that would be an interesting discussion. But
there would be. But
yeah.
I think they would probably feel even better with Phillip Rivers than Carson Wentz, because
they know what they got in that.
They know exactly what they got, and they just went through a year doing it. Yeah. And Phillip is taking a little bit of a back seat to the running game when he's needed to without whatever. I think it's just an easier thing from the cultural thing that you created in the locker room to bring Phillip back as opposed to bringing another thing. Now, I would suggest that they draft a guy, but I think it's
big and easy. It doesn't matter what they think of him.
Well, say that again, DJ.
They've got Eason. It's just a matter of what they think of him.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But I don't know. Look, I mean, obviously we're making the connection because of Frank Reich and his success with Carson in Philadelphia. So just want to make sure that's clear. But it's interesting because with a quarterback like Phillip Rivers, I mean, it has the potential to completely fall off a cliff, and it could happen week 2 next year. It could happen week 3. We don't know. We don't know. And that's all due respect to his talent. What he's done this year, it's been terrific and a big reason why the Colts are having their success. So interesting conversation. I'll get us to the next one here. The Ravens roar past the Jags.
Lamar Jackson in the shotgun in an empty backfield. 1:29 left to play in the half. Jackson wants to throw. Backpedaling at the 20. Now he'll dart over to the left, extends the play, fires to the end zone. Touchdown, Dez Bryant, his first as a Raven. And he'll flash the X to the stands. He has waited 4+ years to get back to the end zone as the former Dallas Cowboy gets his first score as a Raven.
Good for Dez Bryant. I didn't intend to go deep on Dez here, but I've read a couple of things since then this morning. And so, I was listening to his comments after the game, and, I was watching his Instagram clips of him running routes in the offseason for months and months and months and posting all that stuff. And, he talked about how his daughter was his motivation for getting back into the league. Like, he was content to call it a career after tearing his Achilles with the Saints and sitting out a season and not having many bites. And his daughter was the one that encouraged him to get back into it. So he started working and he started working out and he got back and talked about how he was going to give that ball, the touchdown that he caught to her. And, I love seeing those kind of reclamation stories. And, it was a big play for the Ravens in that game. And he could end up being a good player for him down the stretch here into the playoffs. And the other thing was, like everyone's talking about throwing up the X, right, for the first time. Like, he talked about what it meant, and I didn't really know what the whole throwing up the X thing meant. And he said, it means Xing out the negativity, not letting the criticism or the negativity into your life and to get to you. And he certainly had to do that here the last 3 years, 1,106 days since he last caught a touchdown. So I just thought that whole thing was cool for Dez. And then Lamar Jackson, this is his time right now. He is playing well. He's playing with the MVP we saw from a year ago. Now, can they get into the dance? Because I think they'll cause some problems if they do.
Yeah, I think it's funny you talk about Xing out all the stuff. I think the Baltimore Ravens have finally X'd out all the criticism and all the conversation about how they should play. And they've got back to playing the way that they're built to play. They played a team that they were superior than. And what they did, they kept it really simple. They hit him right in the face and ran the ball. And I think for the Baltimore Ravens, when they stick to that script, that is when they're at their best. When they attempt to be something that they're not and they get out of character, that's when it trips them up. I will say the way that they're using J.K. Dobbins is really interesting. When you look at the tape and you see them using jet sweeps and fly sweeps and all of that other stuff, he is becoming a bit of a factor because in the backfield, they don't have a lot of juice. He is their juice player, and they're beginning to give him opportunities to have those explosive plays on the perimeter.
And I'll just finish this one up before Bucky gets to the next takeaway with when you look at all the picks the Jacksonville Jaguars have, and now the number 1 overall pick as it stands right now. It's done a pretty attractive job. They've got some good young players on that team. You've got a boatload of picks, including potentially the number 1 overall pick. I think that one, you can make a case, jumps to the front of the line for a lot of people when you look at desirable jobs.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a great job. It's a job that people are going to clamor for with all the things that are lined up there. So takeaway number 7, the Cardinals survive.
Shotgun snap to Murray, drops back to throw, fires left side, Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins puts his hands up and he catches it, and it's a touchdown. I have no idea how he caught that ball. DeAndre Hopkins' hands are as good as we've ever seen in the National Football League. I have no idea how he caught that football with a defender all over it.
Hey, it's funny in making that call because he does have remarkable hands. And I know if you're in Arizona, you're Steve Keim and that crew, and you've been looking at Larry Fitzgerald make these catches for years on end. If we had to make a debate between who has the better hands between Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know. It would have to be a tie because these guys catch everything, because later in the game, Larry Fitzgerald makes a catch in the corner of the end zone. Route? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there like, how did Larry Fitzgerald see this? And so this is a team that survived. And I would say that they couldn't necessarily put the Eagles away the way that you thought they would be able to put them away. But I do believe this is a team that can be problematic for teams just because Kyler Murray had a 400-yard day. He can scoot and scatter with his running ability. And then DeAndre Hopkins can make plays. Larry Fitzgerald can make plays. Just a tough team. And Isaiah Simmons is beginning to play more. Isaiah Simmons, Hassan Reddick, the way they're dialing up the blitz packages.
Pass rush.
Man, they're really random and they're scary because they come after you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I talked to Hassan Reddick on NFL Now, and just kind of an interesting career arc that he's taken. Seems to have found a home now, rushing the passer on the outside for this team after not being in that position in his first couple of years. Kind of going through what this is, 3rd defensive coordinator now in 4 years with Vance Joseph, and seems to have found a home here. The thing I'll say on the Eagles is, we talk about Jalen Hurts, and the word that is most associated with him has been spark, right? Everybody wants, looking for the spark. Well, he is the spark. He is an energy giver, but with the spark and with the energy, he also brings calm and poise, I felt like. And just even when they were down early, you felt like they had a chance. Like there was a confidence when the Eagles offense was out onto the field, and I don't know that was there before he was out there. So how do you send him back to the bench if he puts up 2 more games?
You're not. You're not.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Take it away.
And that's why we always talk about too, though, with the quarterback position. People look at the salary. It's the budgeted amount you have for the position. So the fact that if Carson were to not work out and you move on and you have to take some of that hit on. Really, when you consider how little Jalen Hurts is going to be making as a 2nd-round pick, it's the money allocated to the position. So it's not like you're replacing an expensive entity with another expensive entity coming in. That it isn't. It doesn't cost that much. So you can kind of throw that away in terms of, because the money they couldn't do this. No, yeah, absolutely they can. They've got the money budgeted for that position. It's just a matter of who's out there playing. And he's earning that opportunity. Now, the one cautionary thing I would throw out there is, I think we kind of talked about Carson. He needed to speed up his clock, and Carson got a little bit shell-shocked because he just got hit so much, and I thought that really impacted him. Jalen took 6 sacks in this game. After last week, I want to say against the Saints, I don't think he took 1. So this offensive line is not healthy. They stink, and he's done a good job of overcoming that and finding ways to make plays. But, gosh, when you start having those 5 and 6 sack games, that has a residual effect down the line here. So they've got to figure out a way to either get him some more design winners, some quick hitters, or do a better job of keeping him upright, Buck.
Yeah, no, it was funny because in watching this game, they brought pressure. I mean, they brought 0 pressures. They were coming after him, and they did a really good job of covering it up. The one thing that I would like to see the Eagles do, they love the fade ball, but, man, versus the blitz, every time you blitz, you can't just say my answer is the fade because it's such a low percentage pass. So I would just like to see them do more with it. But Rhett, you hit the nail on the head when it came to poise, his experience, and his ability to kind of calm everything down. I think his best trait really has to do with that part of it. He has been a pro's pro when it comes to managing the huddle. Even when you hear him talk about, hey, we got to play to the standard, that's not good enough. I just think his leadership ability has really stood out during these 2 games.
Yep. And one other thing here before we move on to the next one, I'll get us to the Vikings here in a second. But I thought, the Eagles didn't have all their guys defensively. I thought the way they tried to defend Kyler, which did not work, but it was fascinating because you've seen a couple teams do this now, which is you're not going to be able to stop Kyler from escaping in every direction, right? Because you've got 5 or 6 different ways you can go as a quarterback to be able to escape. I think there's 6. They say there's 6 lanes, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to stop all that. Some people will try and attempt the mush rush, so they're just going to try and make a wall up in front of you. Some people are going to try and pin you in. I don't think he's so difficult to do that too. So what they did is they ended up dropping off. They did it a few times that I saw on the tape. The end to his right. So they would drop him off to spy him, but basically trying to encourage him. If he is going to escape, Buck, they wanted to get him to escape to the left, get him to go
away from his pressure.
And it didn't even. I mean, there was one time where he still escapes to the right, and then the spy closed on him quick. He dumps it off in the flat. They break a tackle. It's a long gainer. But I think it's fascinating just to see how teams are trying to deal with Kyler Murray and all the trouble he presents.
Yeah, he presents a lot of problems, and I think what Kyler has to know is that he needs to use his legs enough to make them stay on board with that. Because sometimes in the pocket or whatever, they need to run him enough to make sure that they always fear that part of his game. But this offense is unique, and they are better when they're able to run the football. Kenyon Drake being able to have plays, Kyler Murray being able to break, contain, and do some things. If they run the ball and add some balance to this offense, this is when I think they really operate at their best.
All right, let's keep it going here with the Vikings need a defensive overhaul.
To the 14, a fresh set of downs. Graham in motion to the right. Snap Trubisky, extend the handoff right. Opening for Montgomery, 10, 5, into the end zone with a couple piggyback rides along the way. Touchdown Bears! David Montgomery does it again in a 26-17 lead.
Okay, so here's a name that I'm sure nobody's thought of this whole year, definitely not on the national level, and that's Michael Pierce. Michael Pierce, a defensive tackle from the Baltimore Ravens that the Minnesota Vikings signed in the offseason. Now, he opted out of the season. So you lose Linval Joseph. You let him walk, and who's actually, even though the Chargers don't have a good win-loss record, Linval Joseph's
a good player.
Well. He's a really good player. So you're going to let him walk. You're hoping to replace him with Michael Pierce. You take him out of that mix. Then you look at Danielle Hunter in that situation. They haven't had 2 key pieces there. It is absolutely the case. But also, when you look at them at the second, third level, even though I know there's a lot of money and a lot of high draft picks in those areas, they have not played well enough. They are going to have to get some reinforcements. I'm just not used to seeing a Mike Zimmer defense, consistently give up 30 points in all these losses. They have got to be better there. I think Kirk Cousins is kind of an easy punching bag for a lot of people, and it's the quick, easy thing there. But when you look at their losses, a lot of those games, they're giving up way too much defensively. So they've got to figure out, they got to get guys healthy, get some people back, but they're going to have to retool that defense.
Yeah, they have to retool it a few different ways because you also have to remember they let a lot of coaches go in the offseason. So this is a completely new bunch. So you have Adam Zimmer and Andre Patterson sharing the defensive coordinator title and responsibilities with Mike Zimmer overseeing it. And then you brought in a new guy. So it takes a change in continuity and chemistry to get everybody on the same page. And also trying to play all these young players after you lose Anthony Barr and some of the other guys, it has really impacted their defense because this isn't the Minnesota defense that I'm used to seeing.
So, I mean, you touched on, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks are locked up with big money deals for another few years. I mean, maybe they can get out of the Harrison Smith contract. I mean, he's under contract for another year after this season, but I think all the guaranteed money's been paid. Anthony Harris probably gone, right, playing on the franchise tag. But I mean, they've committed some real valuable resources to the secondary here in the last couple of years. You look at Mike Hughes, a first rounder, Cam Dantzler, a second, Jeff Gladney, a first rounder. I mean, you gotta count on some development there at some point too, right?
Yeah, you're hoping those young guys are going to develop, but at some point in time, you got to infuse some new guys as well as you're going along. It's not good enough right now.
Let me just check in real quick. Does this mean that the Bears might give a second look to Mitchell Trubisky if he guides them to the playoffs?
So here's let me give you an interesting thing here. You remember the Bears did not pick up his 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So then also think about the fact that Allen Robinson's a free agent. So If you want to franchise tag him, then you're going to let Allen Robinson walk out the door. They're in no man's land in the draft. They're picking 15 or 16, somewhere around there right now. You figure they're going to beat Jacksonville this week. That pick's not going up higher. So they're kind of almost out of range of drafting a quarterback. Trubisky's played well since Bill Lazor took over the play calling. It is what it is. I think you've got to give Bill Lazor some credit. Trubisky's played. Let's call it what it is. He's played winning football the last 4 weeks. He's played. That's got that out of him.
Montgomery's played winning football too.
They would have picked up his option. So, to me, if you're the Bears, this is an interesting thing. As I kind of understand this as well, because of the franchise tag and the salary cap, situation going forward, I think that number can come down a little bit to where maybe it was expected to be 27 and a half, 28. I think it can be back down to like 24 and a half, like 24. We always say it though. People always say, I want to move on. Who are you going to get?
Who's better? Yeah.
Who are you going to get? So, and if he plays like this, if they win their last couple games and get into the postseason, and Bill Lazor's been calling plays and Trubisky's been playing well, then you're in a tricky spot here. I would be tempted if you're the Bears, Buck. Think about this. What if you went to Trubisky and said, okay, we want to ride this out for another year, but we also don't want to lose Allen Robinson. And if you don't franchise tag Allen Robinson, he's gone because there's too many teams that are looking for weapons right now. He'd get over $20 million a year more than likely. So if you're the Bears, what if you went to Trubisky and said, okay, the franchise number is 24 and a half, right? I'll give you a 1-year contract at, let's say, 20 guaranteed, okay? But with the incentives where we can go beyond the 24.5, you play well, now this can get to 27, 28. So there's, you lock in your 20, but then you have a chance to get beyond what you would sign if you just signed the franchise number. Then you have your quarterback for another year to look at, and you could franchise Allen Robinson so you wouldn't lose him. There you go.
But then Mitchell Trubisky shows his true colors the next year, and you lose both him and Allen Robinson the following.
I can't let you off lose, DJ.
I'm just throwing out an idea.
You got to give me a couple years on that. So you might have to sign Mitchell Trubisky to the Blake Bortles deal. You may have to sign him to the 3-year.
Don't call it the Blake Bortles deal if you want it to get done. That's my
I'm just saying, but like that's what it's looking like because I don't want to say you misplayed your hand, but when you sat him out and then you put him back in, you now have hurt yourself because all the leverage now goes back to Mitchell because now he can be like, oh, I don't like being benched like I was.
All of a sudden they run the ball, they're running the ball, they're playing better.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So I mean, it's a weird spot. That team's in a weird spot, man.
Really weird spot. All right, I'll get us to takeaway number 9 here, and it's the Seahawks surging into the playoffs.
Carson picked up 9, giving the ball off to Hyde, and he breaks free inside the 40, down to the 30. He's on the run, 20, 15, 10. He's going to go in. Touchdown, Seahawks. Chris Carson loosened him up, and Carlos Hyde makes him pay as Carlos takes the touchdown in from 50 yards out, and the Seahawks extend their lead on this opening drive of the second half. 19-3, Carlos Hyde. What a run.
How cool is that, by the way? I don't know if you guys were watching that game. Some 8K video resolution on some of those replays and some of those celebrations on there. I mean, it was like
I don't think I got the 8K on my computer.
You didn't see it? That was awesome. So, look, I'll make this quick here. I think this was an important win for the Seahawks. Obviously, important for them to get into the playoffs, clinch their playoff berth, and to now, with the Rams loss, assume the top spot in the NFC West, at least for about 6 days until they come back and play the Rams again this week. But I thought it was good from an offensive game plan standpoint, considering what they might face once they do get into the playoffs. This is a good defense with Washington. I mean, any way you want to cut it, that front is as good as it gets, right? They figured out how to run the football against them. They ran for 181 rushing yards. And that feels a little bit more Seattle-like than what we kind of saw the first 6 weeks of the season when they were undefeated and throwing the ball all over the place. We know they can do that. And now we know that they can run the ball against a good defense. So I think that this is helpful for them. This is helpful for them as they go into the postseason. And obviously it was an impactful win based on what it got them. So I think all around this was a nice week for Seattle.
Yeah, I think it was a huge win. just the way that they were able to do it. The running game has to show up for them because the way they were playing early in the year, that wasn't a sustainable model. Not necessarily because Russell Wilson couldn't handle all that on his shoulders, but you can't expose your defense to all of the extra plays that kind of come along with playing that fast break style that they were doing. Now you're seeing the defense play a little better. Jamal Adams and Carlos Dunlap have enhanced the pass rush. You're seeing the running game enable them to control the clock, and they're on the plus side of 30 minutes of time of possession, which is what they want to do. And then you always have Russell Wilson in your back pocket to kind of make things right. This is the way the Seattle Seahawks have to play. And you're right. I think they are surging at the right time. And I think right now it's maybe clear. Maybe they're the best team in the NFC West, and that's going to give them a chance to get a good seat.
I'll ask you guys this one before we get to the final takeaway. I have been going through the tape this morning. I haven't got to this game yet, so I don't want to talk about something I haven't seen. How did Haskins look?
He threw it 55 times.
Yeah, he started out slow. He got into a rhythm or whatever, but DJ, I just think this is a failed marriage between play caller and player. I don't think they really like the player, so I don't think they necessarily set it up if you're all the way invested in him to succeed. And so for him to throw 55 times when you know you don't really trust him, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they didn't run the ball more.
Interesting.
I mean, they got down early, but he threw 55 times. It doesn't seem to be a recipe for success in this one. And he had a couple of big drives late, but at that point, I think it was already over.
Why this thought's in my mind before, Bucky, you get to your last takeaway. I do want to – we do know that what happened with Carolina with Marty Hurney, and they've made a change at the GM position. We'll hit that on the pod tomorrow, so that'll be something that we'll have to discuss. So don't want you guys to think we're leaving that one out here. What do you got here, Bucky, for number 10?
Baker Mayfield is on a roll.
Mayfield in the shotgun. Baker waits. Second down and goal. Now they move Peoples-Jones in motion. Mayfield play action fake. Drifts back. Throws end zone. Caught. Landry's got it. And he's got it for a touchdown. The Browns go ahead 13-3 with 21 seconds left to go.
The Cleveland Browns are an interesting team. This is the game that they were supposed to win. They were favored to beat the Giants, and they took care of business. I think the thing that really stood out is how good Baker Mayfield was. This is a Giants team that we've seen give some quarterbacks problems with the way that they played, and he was good. He was accurate. He was decisive. 27 of 32, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think the confidence, the more that he plays in Kevin Stefanski's system, the better we're seeing him perform. And the Browns are a very, very difficult team to defend because they're running the football. You have to deal with the two-headed monster in Chubb and Hunt. And then with Baker Mayfield being able to throw effectively, it works. This is a team that's systematic more than anything, but it really, really works for them.
Yeah, I went back and watched Baker in this one, and he was protected. It was clean. It was on time. It was just easy. He just made it look really, really easy while he was back at Oklahoma back there. And the other thing is, for anybody that ever has any doubts or issues with Baker Mayfield's skill, Buck, the velocity, it jumped out of his hand when you watch that tape, and that's not an easy place to throw.
Well, he certainly winds up for it. That's for sure. He put some oomph on that thing. I mean, it did some torque on that shoulder, but it does come out for sure. Look, I just thought the bounce back was big. After a really tough loss on Monday night, a little bit of a short week, coming back on Sunday night, and good teams figure out how to put that behind them quickly and win against the team you should beat, and they did that against a good defense too, right? In doing so, all of the AFC wildcard teams hold serve here this week, which makes our jobs a lot more fun here over the course of the next 2 weeks as they try to figure out who's going to make the dance here in the AFC.
No, it was a fun week of football, and we've got the college football playoff is all set. We'll have a chance to talk about that on some of these other podcasts this week as well. We'll hit those topics. But appreciate it, guys. That was a fun one today, ripping through what we saw week 15 of the NFL season as we march down towards the finish line. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us here. We'll catch you next time right here on Move the Sticks.